Let's start. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eduardo Ortiz, and I work at the IDRPP in the Research and Training Division here at Utah State University. I would like to welcome all of you to another community of practice organized by the Multicultural Disability Network and Training MultiNet project. Our project seeks community integration and inclusion of people with disabilities from multicultural backgrounds. The intersectionality of disability and diversity includes many factors such as race, ethnicity, age, rural frontier, geography, gender, and gender identification. SES, I keep adding health literacy. So this list is increasing. Among other cultural elements that creates complex context that needs expanded conversations and learning opportunities, such as this community of practice activity. As part of MultiNet work we have developed at the IDRPP other products, I invite you to look at the link we are placing here in the chat. Today, we have the privilege to have Bora Lee, a colleague and a friend, who will present about bridging cultures, exploring the intersection of disability and assistive technology across diverse communities. Bora is the director of Utah Assistive Technology Program, UATP. Bora earned her Bachelor of Arts in Industrial Design from Handong Global University and a Master of Arts in Special Education, focusing on moderate to severe disabilities. She furthered her education by obtaining an educational doctorate in educational leadership from California State University, Los Angeles, concentrated on transitioning to adulthood for minority students with disabilities. With over 15 years of experience, Bora is deeply committed to supporting individuals with disabilities in accessing assistive technology, smart home solutions, workplace accommodations, and fostering independent living. Her expertise extends to facilitating the transition to adulthood for youth with developmental disabilities and providing support to families from diverse backgrounds. I would like to remind you some general ground rules. I would like to invite the audience to introduce ourselves briefly in the chat so we could know a little bit about you, including your name, organization you represent, and your role. Please also keep your mic mute during the presentation. Remember, this community of practice group is here to discuss, not to debate or argue. Also, any discussion should be focused and avoid side-deviated conversations. Keep an open mind and be open to learning something new. Be respectful of others. Listening is as important as talking and avoiding making assumptions. Lastly, ask questions. Politely is always appreciated to gain understanding and clarity. So, without more words, join us for an engaging conversation about the intersection of disability-assisted technology use and diverse communities and how it applies to helping professionals. I also remind you that this community of practice is recorded. Bora, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Eduardo. Thank you for inviting me to share my experiences. My name is Bora Lee. Here's a brief visual description of myself. I am an Asian woman with long, wavy black hair in my early mid-40s, wearing a black sweater. And behind me is a scenic backdrop of Utah State University, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. So thank you again for being here. It's more of a casual, informal kind of discussion that I would like to have with my friends, colleagues, and the members. So today I'm really excited to share some of the work I have been focusing on and my passion for increasing awareness among diverse communities. I believe that knowledge is power, and my goal is to provide you with information that can open new doors and possibilities. My work centers on providing access to assistive technology. By interacting with diverse group of individuals, I have dedicated my efforts to ensuring that resources and opportunities are accessible to all, particularly those who may have been overlooked or underserved in the past. I am not here to sell you anything or to advocate for a specific cause. But I hope to inspire you by showcasing what is available and how it can make a difference in your lives or the lives of those who are around you. By learning about these resources, I believe you will be better equipped to engage in areas you may not have previously considered. So then my goal is to foster a greater understanding and to encourage you to explore and utilize these opportunities. So today we have a couple of objectives. First, we'll kind of talk about definition of disability, and I see a lot of familiar names and probably you have more knowledge in this area. But here I'll just gonna briefly talk about disability and what assistive technology is, and we'll explore cultural perspectives on disability by sharing some of the stories. And we'll just wrap up with a discussion on the future direction of these topics. So understanding disability. Disability refers to a physical, cognitive, sensory, or developmental disabilities that limits a person's ability to perform everyday activities. So first, let's look at physical disabilities. These affect a person's mobility, dexterity, cognitive disabilities, which includes memory loss, difficulty staying on task, lack of attention, and problem solving. Sensory disabilities affect hearing, vision, or both. Developmental disabilities occur before adulthood and affect physical, intellectual, behavioral functioning. Autism spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome fall under this category. So understanding and respecting the needs of individuals with disabilities is essential for creating a more inclusive and accessible society. And interestingly, how you define disability can vary across cultures. Some societies' differences in abilities are viewed as natural variations rather than disabilities. So these cultures emphasizes the unique strengths, contribution over limitation, and some indigenous cultures have holistic views on health that consider physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. So differences in abilities are seen as natural variations with individuals' value for their unique perspectives and skills. And similarly, in cultures influenced by Eastern philosophies like Buddhism, Taoism, there is often a more fluid understanding of abilities and limitations, emphasizing acceptance, adaptation, rather than labeling individuals as disabled. So it's important to recognize that disability is shaped by cultural beliefs, values, and social norms and can vary significantly. Understanding this cultural perspective is essential for promoting inclusivity and respect for diverse ways of understanding and experiencing the world. So here, let's go over what assistive technology is. According to the 21st Century Assistive Technology Act, an assistive technology device is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals. Simply put, these are tools that help individuals to perform everyday tasks more independently and effectively. And there is another word that we often use is accessibility. So accessible means a person with a disability is afforded the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as a person without a disability in an equally effective and equally integrated manner with substantially equivalent ease of use. Therefore, assistive technology increases a person's access to various resources and opportunities, enhancing their overall quality of life. So before I continue, I would like to introduce the Utah Assistive Technology Program, UATP. So we are one of the grantees of the AT Act, now known as the 21st Century Assistive Technology Act. We were one of the first grantees and been here 35 years supporting Utahns. This act aims to increase access to and funding for assistive technology and devices, assistive technology devices and services, focusing on improving the availability of AT for individuals with disabilities in the United States. There are 56 AT programs across the US and territories with the same mission and goals outlined in the Act. although the specifics of their operations may differ program to program. So here with UATP, our approach centers on identifying individuals' functional needs to enhance independence, improve quality of life, and foster greater participation in daily activities. So here's a detailed exploration of how assistive technology can effectively address specific functional requirements rather than focusing on disability itself. So when you have a low vision, there are several types of assistive technology, AT, that can support you in daily activities and improve your quality of life. So some of the examples would include magnification devices, whether they are handheld magnifiers or electronic magnifiers, or screen magnification software that enlarges text and images on a computer screen. There's also reading aids such as text-to-speech software, optical character recognition devices, OCR devices, which scans printed text and converts it to digital text that can be read out loud by text-to-speech software. Mobile apps, I use these apps very often. Seeing AI, this is a free app by Microsoft that narrates the world around you, including reading text, describing scenes around you, and recognizing faces, and there are more features within the Seeing AI. Be My Eyes connects users with volunteers who provide visual assistance through a live video call. And this is available in more than 150 countries and in over 180 languages. So before this meeting, I was talking with Mindy, Eduardo, and Sam about visiting Korea. And I was surprised to see that this feature is available. So if you, although the intent was for visually impaired blind individuals, however, this is another resource that we do have. And it allows its users to make a video calls to volunteers, register on this app, depending on the available hours they register and the language they speak. So by using your phone camera to establish a live video connection, and then the volunteer providing precise description and directions. And there are also low vision tools such as high contrast and large print keyboards, braille displays and note takers, daily living aids, which, such as talking clocks, watches, large print labels and bump dots, smart home devices. I'm sure most of us has at least one or two smart home devices at your home, smart canes that's equipped with sensors and technology to detect obstacles and provide feedback to the user. So this pertains to the visual, right? What about hearing? Whether you have hearing loss or find it difficult to hear well in a large crowd or at concert, there are tools available to support you. Hearing aids, assistive listening devices, captioning services. For speech communication, there are speech generating devices that would produce spoken words or phrases based on user selection, aiding those with speech impairment in communication. There are communication boards with pictures or symbols for individuals to point to express themselves. Augmentative and alternative communication apps that would facilitate communication through text, symbols, or pictures for those with speech and language difficulties as well. What about learning, cognition, and development? So when you struggle with learning at school or completing a task is difficult, there are tools to help you. Note-taking apps, text-to-speech software, speech-to-text software, organization and time management tools, calendar apps, reading and writing aids, mind mapping software, screen readers. All of this will help you to make your learning and working a little bit more easier, manageable, helping you to succeed. There are mobility seating and positioning devices that will help you, manual power wheelchair, walkers, scooters, adaptive seating. For daily living, we have adaptive utensils, which are modified eating utensils for easier use. There are dressing aids. For environmental adaptation, there are REMs, grab bars, also smart home technology, where it's automated system that enable to control of lights, temperature, and appliances through voice commands and mobile apps. Vehicle modification, transportation. So devices lifting wheelchairs into vehicle for accessible transportation. Hand control, which is modification allowing individuals with limited leg function to drive using hand-operated controls. Accessible transportation services. Specialized transit options, ensuring that transportation for individuals with disabilities going to work, going to different appointments, and also attend social activities. Let's go to recreation sports. So there are adaptive sports equipment, modified equipment enabling individuals with disabilities to participate in sports and recreational activities such as hand cycle, adaptive skis, and tools and devices making hobbies and leisure activities accessible, like adaptive fishing rods or gardening tools. What about accessible facilities, right? We have many state parks, national parks in Utah. Are they accessible? So then how can we ensure that everybody has the full same access? So these examples showcase the extensive potential of assistive technology in meeting diverse functional needs, empowering individuals with disabilities to lead independent, productive, and fulfilling lives while fostering inclusivity and breaking down barriers. I am not the expert, but here I am here to share my experiences, my journey, and my learning with you. So if you have any other thoughts, if you have any other ideas, please share with me, share with this group, because it's really important to share. Cultural beliefs, values, and norms play a significant role in shaping how disabilities are viewed in different societies, as I said earlier. And these perceptions can greatly affect how individuals with disabilities are treated, included, or excluded. So some cultures, disabilities are unfortunately viewed negatively, often seen as a curse, punishment, or a consequence of past wrongdoing, which can lead to exclusion, resulting in social isolation and marginalization of individuals with disabilities. In other cultures, disabilities are seen as a natural part of the human condition. They are fully integrated into community life, valued for their unique contributions, and provided with ample support. Moving on to the impact of stigma and discrimination, these pervasive issues can lead to social isolation, right? Limited opportunities in education and employment, and ultimately a lower quality of life for individuals with disabilities. So addressing stigma and discrimination requires a extensive approach that includes education, advocacy, policy changes to promote equality and ensure access to necessary services. Furthermore, barriers to access and adoption of assistive technology vary across cultural contexts and can include lack of awareness, financial constraints, inadequate infrastructure, and cultural beliefs that may discourage the use of AT. Understanding these barriers is crucial for developing strategies to improve access to AT, such as community outreach, financial assistance programs, infrastructure development, and cultural sensitivity. Cultural perspectives significantly influence the adoption and the use of AT. Factors such as fear of dependency on technology and family caregiving dynamics are there. So are there families to support each other? Do they emphasize on being independent? So there are differing views on independence can impact the acceptance and utilization of AT solutions. So it's important to recognize and respect these cultural differences when promoting AT to ensure that devices and services are effective and beneficial across diverse cultural contexts. So in conclusion, by understanding and addressing cultural influences, combating stigma, discrimination, and overcoming barriers to AT access, we can promote inclusivity and improve the quality of life for individuals with disabilities. Culturally sensitive strategies are key to ensuring that AT is accepted and utilized effectively across various cultural backgrounds. So I would like to share a story about the collaborations and partnerships I built to advocate for assistive technology. While I am a strong advocate for AT, I understand that not everyone may have the same level of experience or find these tools as useful. Rather than just promoting the benefits, I make it a point to listen to their stories and learn about their cultural backgrounds. This helps me understand their past experiences and current comfort level with using government services, as many may not feel comfortable or inclined to use them. So to bridge this gap, I focus on maintaining an open approach, having a clear mission statement, and emphasizing how to access services without feeling intimidated. So we strive to simplify the process, providing information in multiple languages, and collaborating with refugee resettlement agencies. So I actively participate in provider meetings, engaging with diverse communities and schools with diverse students. This approach aims to make our services more accessible and less intimidating, ensuring that everyone feels comfortable and supported. So our partnership with Catholic Community Services, which is a resettlement agency here in Utah, has been a significant recent development. It began when a community specialist reached out after one of my presentations, expressing interest in further collaboration. I firmly believe that for a partnership to thrive, it must be a two-way street with both parties actively contributing and benefiting. And since our initial contact, we have engaged in several meetings to deepen our understanding of each other's missions and the communities we serve. One of our primary objectives has been to identify their needs and explore how our services can complement each other. And this process has involved sharing insights and experiences, as well as discussing potential areas of collaboration. Education has been a key component for our partnership building efforts. We have worked to ensure that Catholic Community Services understand the full scope of our services and how they can support their work. Similarly, we have taken the time to learn about the individuals that they serve, their challenges and their aspirations. So these discussions have identified several areas where our organizations can work together effectively. By aligning our efforts and resources, we are confident that we can make a meaningful impact on the communities that we serve. So our program supports the clients by enhancing their access, educating staff on disability and assistive technology usage, facilitating transition, providing job training, and more. Meanwhile, their support includes assisting with language barrier, translating documents, and sharing cultural insights. So this partnership is an example of how collaboration can lead to more significant outcome than individual efforts alone. The next part is many students also struggle with language access and disability, often facing a long wait list to receive support. So recognizing this is a challenge, we have identified students who recently moved to Utah and were not performing well in school due to language barriers. So to address the need, we have provided devices that can translate documents, textbooks with a small handheld device. And this support gives these students full access to their learning while they wait for more comprehensive service. Okay, I'm almost done. So let's talk about advancement in AT through community-centered design and development. Engaging diverse communities in the design process of AT is crucial. Incorporating input from individuals with disabilities, their families, and community leaders ensures that the devices, products are relevant and effective. Therefore, I think a participatory approach is a way to do it. For example, developing culturally sensitive products includes designing user interfaces in multiple languages and incorporating culturally appropriate symbols. AT should support the primary language spoken by the user, including options for multiple languages if needed. Text-to-speech, speech-to-text systems should recognize and accurately process different dialects and accents. So probably along my presentation, some of you are wondering, what is she talking about? So here's my accent because English is my second language. So, and even going with symbols too, there are religious symbols associated with specific religions, that could be offensive if used inappropriately. There are historic symbols such as flags, emblems associated with past regimes, or that could be offensive to certain groups. Native cultural symbols, right? There are also stereotypical symbols of certain racial ethnic groups that can be offensive, which contribute to discrimination and so on. And there are also symbols associated with past conflicts or wars, can evoke strong emotions and be offensive to those who suffer or lost loved ones during these conflicts. Therefore, it's important to be mindful and respectful of cultural sensitivities when using symbols and to consider the context and potential impact of their use. Education and resource accessibility are crucial, meaning implementing comprehensive education program is essential, which should inform underrepresented communities about the range of available assistive technology solutions. Utilizing state AT programs or state-operated agencies that provide information on AT options, funding sources, and support services is key. This information should be easily accessible, physically, digitally, in multiple languages, ensuring individuals can find the information they need when needed. Empowering individuals to make their own choice is key, providing comprehensive information about different AT options, including benefits, limitations, and potential cultural implication is essential. So this is not only the consumer's responsibility, but also the provider's responsibility to learn about being culturally respectful. We need to recognize and respect the autonomy of individuals. Therefore, we as providers should act as facilitators who provide support and guidance rather than imposing our own preferences. So the next part is collaborative advocacy and policy development. Encouraging and supporting advocacy efforts within underrepresented communities to promote awareness and drive policy changes is really important. Inclusive policies are necessary to ensure equitable access to assistive technology for all communities. This includes funding for AT programs, incentives for inclusive design, regulations, mandating accessibility standards. If you think about people in rural areas, isolated communities without no transportation, no support system nearby, telehealth and remote services can be very beneficial. Developing mobile and portable AT solutions that can be easily transported and used in various environments is especially important for communities with limited access to their essential needs, such as healthcare facilities. So lastly, building inclusive communities requires collaboration, working with community leaders, policymakers, businesses, and individuals with disabilities to create accessible environments is essential. Cultural competency training for professionals is a must to ensure they are aware of and sensitive to the cultural context and needs of the communities that they serve. Establishing mechanisms for ongoing feedback from consumers, clients of assistive technology, such as regular surveys, focus groups, community meetings, that would help to assess effectiveness and identify area for improvement. Developing adaptive technologies that evolved based on our user feedback and changing needs ensure our offer activities and services remain relevant and effective over time. By prioritizing community-centered design, education, empowerment, advocacy, inclusive policy development, and continuous feedback, I believe we can create a more inclusive and equitable society where everyone can access the resource they need. So thank you for taking the time to be here today. I look forward to sharing with you, hearing from you. Together, we can make a positive impact and help bridge the gap in our communities. If you want to connect with me, here's my information. If you know someone who could benefit from AT, here's a link to the AT app program in other states and territories. So thank you.
Thank you, Bora. That was so much information. That was so good. I learned so much. I guess, Eduardo, do you have anything to add before we open it up to questions? You are muted.
Thank you. Yeah, well, yeah, first of all, thank you for a great presentation. And you opened so many topics and so many questions that I'm sure the audience would like to ask. This intersectionality that you put it together, disability, assistive technology, and diversity is so broad, so huge, and can be expanded in many different ways. So I'm sure there are some questions there that the audience would like to ask.
I see Owen. I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, but if you would like to unmute and ask your question, you're welcome to.
Thank you so much, Bara, for sharing this information. So I think that I did send in questions when I registered, but you might not have it. So I think my questions could be twofold. The first one could be around in the context of self-determination and self-advocacy. My daughter are using AAC as a communicator. So she is the AAC communicator. The challenge for her is that by 18, the school seemed to stop teaching her. Like before 18, there's none of the assistive tech to kind of encourage AAC communicator to support with her literacy, right? So basically, a lot of assumption there in the perspective of AAC communicator cannot really learn or study, and they are not being provided any other assistive tech so that they can be able to learn and participate in the curriculum. Or if not, there's no such adaptive curriculum for AAC communicator. So maybe my first questions on that would be, how do you or are you aware of any other resources to support literacy for AAC communicator? And then my second piece of that is the self-advocacy and self-determination in the context that by 18, the school would take the perspective that we respect their autonomy. We're not going to teach them anymore. They have to regardless of whatever they communicate, even though that is not the main mode of communication in the adult world, but that's how the team is going to go forward. But my daughters still need to learn and be trained to be ready for the adult world. So any advice on that, or any thought in regarding by 18, the kids cannot learn. So yeah, I know that are two very big questions. So anything or any advice, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, Eduardo, since this is a committee of practice, I think, and there are individuals with more expertise here joined us. I know Brenda, Cynthia has a really great background supporting individuals with disabilities, needing more of that support. So and I think that's why the transition part is very important, right? It has to be written into your IEP, and that whatever training is done, and before the student exits the public school education system, that is the person ready to go to the real world. And that was my concern with my dissertation when I was writing it. A lot of minority students were not ready, and there were not many resources for them to access. And now it becomes a parent's burden to providing all those additional support. So that was my really focus, but pertain to more of a California setting. However, I believe there are support systems here in Utah. Utah Parent Center do have a lot of providing the assistance and training, just finding that the right support. But if your daughter needs more of the extensive support, finding what would work for her, UATP is a place to come and try out different apps, different ATs. We are here to support everybody. Dan Crowley is our lab coordinator. I don't know where you live. We are a statewide program, so we serve everybody here in the state of Utah. But a lot of resources are available. So if you could just reach out to me. Oh, you're from Boston. I can connect you to the Boston AT program. So that's, yes. please send me your information and I will connect you with them. But there are advocacy group that is written into the section 5 or 6 of the act, which is the parents really advocating for their students, their children with disabilities, getting the right support that they needed. So there will be a similar organization as Utah Parent Center in every state, supporting students with disabilities. So if I didn't answer your question, please let me know. And please feel free to chime in, anybody else, because I'm here to learn from you, and I'm sure all of us are here to learn from each other. And probably this is the intent of the community of practice, by sharing our experiences.
I'm just going to read some comments in the chat, Laura, that people, some of the audience wrote. I am from Boston. Well, you already answered that part. That would be amazing. Thank you, and would love to join this community of practice as I support huge Vietnamese speaking community nationwide, but they have hard time receiving the appropriate support for their loved ones. Also, I put there a question, a general question to expand this conversation. And based on your experience, are there particular diverse groups in Utah who are not maximizing the opportunity to access assistive technology resources? And what do you suggest need to be done to improve the situation? You already start talking about that, about education, you know, about some potential strategies, but yeah, can you expand based on your experience, Laura? Also, you have two additional comments. One from Cynthia saying, OSEP funds a national technical assistance center that might be helpful, and the link is there. And any strategies is in base at advocating for appropriate AT for diverse parents. So you have a lot of questions right there.
Yeah, to go to your question, education, I believe education is really important. Really getting their buy-in has always been challenging for me. And if we look at our data at the end of the year, there are not many diverse individuals utilizing our services. So probably there's more work on our end to do that, advocating. I know Melinda here, as she's our outreach coordinator. She attends every event that's available in Utah, especially underserved communities, but still getting their interest. How would AT benefit myself or my family members? Still, it's in process, I would think. Like I said, usage of technology sometimes. Even older adults would not like to use some of the technology that's available. So getting their buy-in has been always the biggest challenge. So more education, how do you make it so that it ties into less formal, technical, but yet it's helping. It helps you to be more independent. You can get out to the community setting easier. You can actually perform a task more easier. That's what we are looking into, that functional limitation that individual experiences, and help to ease that by utilizing AT devices. And going back to any strategies, so just a little bit sharing my dissertation is really, you know, a lot of immigrant families moved to America. My parents kind of, but a lot of them have moved to America so that they can provide a better life for their children, especially if you have a child with disabilities. My experience with a lot of second generation, first generation Korean immigrant families, the reason that they came here, better education, better life for their children. However, after the 18 or 22, depending on children, became So after they graduate, exit the public school system, it's a zero. You're starting from the beginning, right? So then now the parents are getting older. The students are getting older, stronger, and it really hard for them to raise them in a way that's the intent moving here. It became more struggle because the language barrier that the parents have, because sometimes parents only speak Korean, the children only speaks English because that's what the language that we're taught in schools. So there is language barrier between, within the family structure. So then the outcome has been very challenging. So then advocating for appropriate AT for diverse parents, I wish I knew a lot of these resources back then. Back then, AT was not my consideration, but I think more education, more parent group supporting their needs, finding what the limitations are, what the needs are for that student, so that we can find the right AT for that particular individual. So everything is individualized, like IEP, even AT here, it should be individualized. We don't just provide because you are using a wheelchair. I'm not assuming that you have this disability, because that doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. It's about the functional limitation that the individual experiences, and what solution can we provide to make the life a little bit easier for the individual. So I hope that kind of answer the question. And what Cynthia listed, it's a great information. Now there is a new guidance that came out through OSEP, the myth about the AT. And I am glad that the guidance came out, so that more knowledge will be shared, not only for individual with disabilities or student with disabilities, but more of a general guideline that would help any students to have a better learning outcome. So that's a great resource. And also the Department of Ed with the transition of students with disabilities to post-secondary. Yeah. And then I will share my email address with you. Thank you for sharing, Cynthia. And even just the word assistive technology, it's very formal, very technical. And I wish there's another word that would make it a little bit of, not intimidated, because technology, there's, different types of technology, low, mid, high technology, and anything can be, I would think, I am a huge advocate for anything can be assistive technology. So some people would disagree, but yes. I cannot read without my reading glasses, right? I can see it, but this is a very important part of my life as I get older. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna take advantage that you are presenting Bora again to expand the conversation. One of the if we look at the demographic change at the nationwide as well as statewide, a group that is increasing in number is older population, aging population. And you started with an important part related to this intersectionality, that is the definition of disability. And you say that we need to be cultural responsive, cultural competent about, what is disability for whom. And the aging population, I think, is going to be an important group for this topic, because maybe the concept of disability for this group might be different. I don't have current data, but I know anecdotally that some older people say that I don't need any technical assistance. I don't need any assistive technology. I am doing fine. When you know that they might need it or they might do better with this assistive technology. Do you think that there are currently some barriers for this diverse group, the aging population, and do you think that this intersectionality is going to be critical for the near future?
You're muted, Bora.
Thank you. Sure. Yes. Many individual older adults have told me that I am independent. I don't need any of those devices. And I am capable of taking care of myself. And definitely, I think that's valid. However, I think providing more resources that could be utilized later on, informing them what is available. I think that's the intent of a lot of outreach effort that we are focusing on. This is more of an education awareness, what's out there. Even technology that changes, right, overnight. And a lot of smart appliances where those controller, it's just really hard to use, even though they consider it as smart. Sometimes it doesn't work for everybody. Because with your hand movement, your finger movement, it's hard to, control your devices. So when considering those devices and options, how can we bridge the gap, right? Bring that between this and then the usage, the intent. That's the best I can do. I just cannot sell any of it. A lot of senior conferences that I go to, they're like, I have a lot of devices, right? But I'm not here to sell them. I am here to inform you so that you can, when it's time, you can make an informed choice based on what's available. So educate, I need to strongly advocate the importance of education of different assistive technology that's available, so that when needed, not right now, but when needed, here are your available resources. So older adults, definitely it's more population, more growing. So I think there is a lot of movement towards making assistive technology that is less, what would be the good word to use it? So something more simple, that it doesn't look like a special device. So it's more of device that you'll find in your grocery store, the home improvement stores, where you could just grab it and use it. And it may not even be considered as assistive technology on their end, but still it's assistive technology. So if that makes sense, just bridging that gap, that's very important.
Thank you, Bora.
Definitely, some people don't understand how these resources can help them. There are a lot, I definitely agree. So even the outreach effort has to be very intentional. What is my focus when you are meeting somebody? Therefore, learning about who they are, what their needs are is very important, how you deliver that message to them. So depending on the event, I'm sure Melinda can share a little bit more, but if it's just a community resource fair, how are you going to address the need? If it's a health-related resource fair, how are you going to share that message with the people that you meet? The messaging, how you deliver that messaging will slightly differ based on the event and then the information that you're sharing. And have them come and explore what's available. So they do need time to get to learn the device and use the device so that they are familiar. The more that you spend time, I think better, there is a better buy-in, better acceptance of assistive technology. So more using it can definitely increase their awareness and acceptance. I'm wondering how many you can have utilized assistive technology in your life? Like Eduardo, do you have any assistive technology that you have? Yes, your reading glasses.
Yes.
Cora, your list of assistive technology was astounding to me. There was so much on it that I had not considered to be assistive technology, but we all use something in our
Definitely.
lives, I'm sure.
Really, our smartwatches help you to be more organized beyond, to remember important things. So anything I say can be considered as assistive technology. So if that would help to increase your functionality, yeah.
Yeah, like I know I use it all the time because I can't sit still when I'm reading stuff, especially if it's very disinteresting. So I have to have things read to me. And then sometimes my brain's just kind of all over, so I'll read the same line like 3 times before I realize, oh, I'm on the same line. I need to go down a line. So having something read to me helps me process it a lot more.
Exactly, that's what I do too. So I use Be My Eyes to capture the each page, and then it would just read out to me, which is super convenient and helpful.
I have a question. How often are new assistive technologies coming out, and when do you decide to kind of promote them or, make them available to clients?
Probably every hour. Depending on what devices you're looking for, I'm sure there are a lot of companies trying to advocate and make more of them available. Tying into smart technology, right? Smart technology really helps everybody, regardless whether you have a disability, whether you're old, whether you're young. So those do come out, and it is our responsibility as AT Act programs to have, not that we know everything, but we research, we refer to a lot of different areas of people who have that expertise, because we have a small team, so we cannot do all the work. However, we know who to go to when those things were requested. And we do have an online system where you can go in and check out different devices. And if it's not available in our system, you can always request to see if we can purchase them so that you could explore, have time to play with it so that you can share with your consumers, clients. But I'm sure that technology, everybody's interested in creating something new every day. Even this keyboard, it's a one-hand keyboard. It's pretty small if you look at my hand, right? But, okay. But there are a lot of different devices that come out. It's a niche market, but yeah. And I don't know where you are, but our lab has a lot of fun stuff that you can try out. Even so this keyboard, I need to hold on, let me. Okay. So even this keyboard was meant for children. However, when I share this with older adults at a senior conference, they actually loved it because of it's definitely, as you can see, the keys are a lot bigger than my other one. So when you're typing, it's easier for them to type. And you see a lot of this in a preschool setting, right? However, these, it really helps. It could help anybody, not just preschool students, but older adults who need a large size to be able to see. And there is a color contrast too. Yes, Cynthia.
Hi, Bora. Thank you.
Hi.
I definitely have to stop by UATP when I'm in Utah. So I'm in Maine, and I worked on contract with Maine's ATAC program for over 10 years, but it was on contract. And so you mentioned every state and several of the territories have ATAC programs, and those are funded under sort of the same funding model. And there's the ATAC program, sort of projects, national convener, ATAP and AT3. And I'm wondering, UATP in Utah are really fortunate to have you sort of at the, as a leader of Utah's ATAC program because of your lived experience and your recognition of the need and the value of making sure that diverse perspectives and cultures are being represented in the provision of AT devices and services. And I really appreciate how you were looking at both the design of the devices as well as the delivery of services that really need to account for diversity, various cultures, and sensitivity. So I'm wondering if you're aware of other ATAC programs that are also kind of undergoing this type of analysis, or if there's a community among ATAC programs that are trying to strive and do better in this area.
I haven't heard much. However, there with the new reauthorization that the underserved population was heavily emphasized. So I'm sure there, including homelessness, which I am passionate about. I do a lot of outreach for homelessness and just connecting. I haven't heard a lot, so to be honest, but this is my passion, personal passion, and a lot of those outside of my work, heavily focusing on supporting underrepresented, and especially the climate here in Utah, where I feel like many times it's going backward instead of forward. So I don't even know if I can ever use diversity here anymore. However, that's why I believe the lack of awareness, lack of knowledge, lack of information that the people are not getting, I strongly believe that we need to work more supporting the needs of people who may not have same access to, because our starting point is different. So the more knowledge, I really want to share with even Native American communities. They are one of the hardest people to reach out to, and that I need to be mindful of the words that I say, the message that I share. I have to like think twice, triple times before I say. Otherwise, I feel like, am I offending the other person, or the culture? Because that's how because I've been shown a lot of the conversation, whether intentionally or unintentionally, would be times when people judge you and might not respect you. I'm a person of color with limited proficiency in speaking English. And also, as a minority, sometimes you have those obstacles that you have to live with. However, I think I became more stronger after 5-6 years living here in Utah. But that's why all of my that lived experiences has built the person who I am, and really advocating for people who are not having the same access as we do. So yes, I would love to encourage other AT Act programs to do. My approach would not work for everybody, but the importance of reaching out to underserved and making that commitment to work with, to creating that inclusive society, I think we do need to speak more and supporting each other.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful and so well said. Thanks, Bora.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bora. I believe that one of the best indicators of engaged conversation is time. We are already over time because time flies.
Yes, Eduardo, just before we end, so Cynthia, actually our AT Act program, there is a little bit of guideline with the public awareness. There is activity that is required by the AT Act to support underrepresented or just doing the public awareness. So that is written to the Act, which is split between 60-40, considering state leadership activity that falls, that includes the public awareness training, educating individuals. So it might not be underserved, but it could be other entities that would need more additional support, but it is written into the Act.
Great, thanks for that follow-up. Really helpful.
Well, yeah, just what I was saying, that the best indicator of engaged conversations is time. And we can see that we went over and we are still willing to keep going, to keep learning. And yeah, I appreciate that. So unless you have last words, Bora, I think we have some questions that we would like to ask the audience to answer, because that is helping us to keep track of our efforts. And other than that, I appreciate your time and your commitment to attend to this community of practice that I think are critical for making progress together. Mindy, I don't know, you have last words.
I did. I just posted our website in the chat one more time. We have we always have upcoming events, and they are always focused in some way to diversity and disability. So if you would like to, I would love to invite you all to go to our website. We have a webinar coming up in July. We'll have more community of practice meetings coming up in the coming months. We have a newsletter that we regularly send out. So, and we have other content on our website as well. We have digital storytelling episodes where people share lived experience of different aspects of diversity and disability. And we also have infographics on our website. So if you're looking to learn more about these topics, please join us. That's what we're about. And I just want to thank you all for your time, and thank you for answering the questions in that poll that I sent out. That really helps us as a program to know how to provide the best information we can. We really appreciate your feedback, and to make sure that we are hitting the goals that we have. So thank you for joining us. Answer those questions for us, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Bora.